This is the committee to review the purpose, composition, functionality, and effectiveness of the standing committees of the town. It is March 12th, 2025. It's a little after 3:45, a little 3:45 right now. I have to say, if this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast in the government access channel, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone is recording this meeting, and if so, please make their presence known. Not seeing any. This meeting will replay on via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 10072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live video on demand archives on the Town of Barnstable's website. First, we got a roll call. Councilors Burdick.
I am present.
Councilor Ludke.
Here.
Councilor Clark.
Here.
Councilor Crowe, I'm here. And Councilor Turkelson is not here right now. Okay. Allison? Allison's, what's your last name again, Allison?
Tagliana.
Allison Cagliana is sitting in as the legal assistant for this. So, okay, we'll open the meeting for public comment. Larry, do you have anything to say?
I've got stuff to cover, John, but I'd like to do it, let you get going, because I want to blend it in or get it at the end.
Okay, that'll be fine. Thank you. To the agenda, we're continuing a review of regulatory boards and committees. Last meeting, we looked over a number of those committees, mostly the inactives. There's a letter sent out to the library committee to see what the response was there. This is actually 2019. I don't think she sent, you said you sent something out, or?
No, I visited with a couple of the librarians,
Yeah.
and the library director from Sturgis Library, Lucy Loomis, has been a librarian there for 22 years, and she said that the library committee established by the town has not met in a long time.
Yes.
The librarians amongst themselves have met, but not as a function of the town.
Okay.
And she'd be fine if the committee was retired from the code.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the sense I got talking to the librarian in Marston's Mills, is that they're fine. They have this figured out. I think the trick was we have the money that we give to them, but there seems to be a mechanism for that doesn't involve this committee.
That's correct.
I think we just need to be aware of that. There are finances involved that are divvied out to the libraries, but that seems to be done by a formula that's understood by all the librarians.
And as a grant, I'm told, as a grant to the nonprofits.
I was a trustee of the Katuah Library for 6 years, and I never heard about the
This committee.
committee one.
They
So,
Well, then I think it's fine, yeah.
Okay, so we would recommend retiring the library committee, the town library committee.
I move that we retire the library committee from the code.
Second.
Any discussion?
Any recommendation?
Any recommendations?
So you have to vote to recommend it to the council rather than recommend it in general.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I recommend to the town council, which is what I meant.
Second.
Thank you.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
aye.
That's all members attending today. Town library committee,
I know what
It was really weird.
move to disband.
There's one
Okay.
chair in here that kicks you out of it, like moves forward. It's very uncomfortable.
It was just too loose.
Okay, the water quality committee, talked about that one. And
And I had volunteered to speak with Director Santos, and he said in his 12 years that committee has not met.
okay,
And I asked him if he thought that it would be of value to the town. And he said, perhaps when the code was established, DPW wasn't as fleshed out with staff as it is now. And he thinks that it's, the function is taken over by staff
okay,
for what the water quality committee would have done.
so it's redundant at this point. Okay, do we have a motion to?
Well,
any motion?
that's why I asked when Cape Cod Commission Director Senatori was here. Remember she talked about
Yeah.
her water quality, and I asked her quite a few questions. Because there's a lot of entities that do this monitoring.
Yeah,
You know, Association for Preservation of Cape Cod, our own folks, all sorts of folks doing it. So I guess they're coordinated in a way. I mean, I'm hoping that we're okay, because we do a piece of it too. As I say, I'm hyper concerned about water quality, but if we don't think this committee could add any value to that,
Yeah.
then I guess I'm okay. If you think, Chris, based on your
I do.
research.
I think that
If it's not adding value, then,
the
forget it.
volunteer groups have emerged where
Right.
the energy is and the.
The Indian ponds, I mean, there's a lot of groups that are
Right.
advocating, I hope coordinating.
And more importantly, if you were to even try to operate this committee again, it'd be like bringing it out of mothballs.
Yeah.
So,
To
yeah,
reconstitute.
you'd have to reconstitute it, get it all rolling, get everybody going, get an administrator. And that seems unlikely and unnecessary, right?
Well, if the town decides it's something they want to do, then they can do
They
it
can always
at this
bring it
point
back.
and put new life into it. But there's a way it's sitting here. I think we all pretty much put that one on the disband list also.
Just so you know, part of my energy to have requested this committee's our committee's
Yeah.
existence from then Council President Penn was when we were on appointments. I saw that the town was advertising for volunteers for committees that weren't meeting.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we want to make sure that if we're asking for people to step up, they are well received, they have a place to go, as opposed to a committee that hadn't met in over 12 years.
Okay, do we have any motion to move this to the disband category?
So moved.
To recommend to the town council.
Yeah, I'll
Second.
second it. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's the majority, everybody. That's the, move to disband. Now, the next one we were working on was the roads committee. Now, I think from what I understand, the town and Mark and the DPW decide to take up roads on a regular basis, or whether they're, I think the criteria they use are whether they're primary arteries. If they're private roads, then they eventually take those over. It's the one that are not primary, that are private roads, and those have a program to get into that system if the neighbors decide they want to do something like that.
Yeah, I think we've had, ad nauseum presentations from
Yeah.
Mr. Elson. I think the last one we had, I thought it was very clear with his breakdown, just like you described, John. And I don't think we need a committee to
Yes.
I think the
support that.
committee that's on the books is stale. It
Yes.
says it has a member, the town manager,
Public
a
Works,
member, Public Works
Historical Commission.
That's not even in existence.
Planning Board, and 2 voters from the town,
That's not,
in addition to ad hoc members that can be appointed.
so Director
those in-
Santos said that committee has not been viable. There has since been a roads committee that was ad hoc a few years ago that was only made of counselors, and that had a term and is now expired.
Okay,
So I think this committee that is referenced in that structure is not worth continuing,
okay,
is worth retiring.
Well, all these committees are holdovers from when the town was less organized.
yeah,
You know what I mean? As things can become more consolidated and professional,
Yeah.
some of these have become redundant. This is one of them. I mean, for instance, didn't we direct Mark Ells to come up with a cohesive plan on private
Yes.
roads? So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, you spent a lot of time on that, so. Okay, there's a move on this one, on the roads committee?
Yes.
I move that we recommend to the town council to retire the roads committee.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, is it unanimous? Okay, next one, is one we talked a little bit about, is the Jane Eshbaugh Service Community Award. That hasn't been, I saw the recent recipients. I think the most recent one was 2009, it was David Richardson, who's now passed. And so it hasn't been kept up. I don't think personally, I don't think we need a committee on this, but it's an award that can remain in the town if there's a recommendation by somebody who's outstanding in public service. And I think it said, service to others in areas of environmental protection, land conservation, health and human services, innovative community initiatives, beautification, and other appropriate areas of community endeavor. That's what they're looking for, the criteria to name
Wide
what it is.
spectrum.
It is very wide. So,
In my opinion,
yeah,
I don't think that the council could or should continue this committee to select one volunteer of the year. I think that there are so many volunteers. Most are unrecognized. There's a woman who runs the Meals on Wheels programs every day.
yeah.
I think that it's tremendous, the time and energy and dedication she's provided. Somebody like her could be recognized, but I think people have volunteered for the town in a wide spectrum, even beyond what's listed there. And I think that to select one would disparage the other, sort of, but I think we should just.
Is it
let them.
specific to does it have a specific capacity in which someone serves the town?
It says right here, areas of environmental protection, land conservation, health and human services, innovative community initiatives, beautification, and other appropriate areas of community
So
endeavor.
that, the young lady
But
who
just
runs
as a
that
person, John, or do they have to work for the town in some capacity?
No, it
could
looks
be the
like,
young lady who runs the Meals for Wheels.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think recognition necessarily invalidates the contribution of others.
I agree.
You know what I mean? It's if we put it under the direction of the town manager or the town council were to nominate and pick somebody every year, it might be a nice thing to make people feel recognized. I mean, I guess my question is, why did it stop meeting?
I don't know
have
why.
a historical record. Because I know that, you know, I've been on we gave out one, the young man who saved the lady at the.
yeah, at the pond, at the dump, yeah.
But it's a nice positive thing that we can do to recognize somebody.
Let me,
You know what
let
I
me
mean?
finish, let me finish what that also says here, I didn't see this. Special emphasis is to be placed on contributions to the community by unsung residents who work quietly, even to the extent of self-sacrifice, without expectation of recognition or reward. I think the idea maybe is to have, Jane Espo, I remember, was there's a tree in Ostville which they've got a stone for her. She was involved with the village association there, but she was on the health department, I remember, a number of other things. And she worked through the town. She was, I don't know if she was a counselor at the time, but she was also, did a number of things. I think if we were going to have an award from the council, it shouldn't have to be every year, but when you find somebody that's over and above in the community for a long time of service, I think that should be kept somewhere for the council to decide if they see somebody in that respect. I don't know if it needs to be every year, but, because that makes it a little difficult, but I mean, there's people you can name that have been involved and they're coming to the end of their service, or that might be a big lift, and I think we should keep this maybe, not this committee, but to keep it as a function of the town council. Does anybody agree with that? Or a possibility of the council?
Yeah,
And if so.
for me, I don't mind that. I don't know what a committee, like, would they meet once? And then
Yeah.
come up with you know what I mean? Was that all it was, like we have our annual meeting and you say, I think Joe Smith and so on, and you know what I mean? Then they have a discussion and say, we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Is that how it functioned? I don't even know, obviously. But I think the award in and of itself is a cool thing, and I don't see the need to strike that. But if we don't wanna have a committee.
No, I don't think we have a committee, but if the town council decides to, I've got a person or whatever, we've got a person that we really think we should find something to do, then you could have the Jane Ashbaugh Award be awarded that year to that
Yeah.
person. Instead of having every single year, or necessity to have it every year.
Right.
And that could be something that's on the town council, I don't know where you put it, but something to keep in mind for somebody, because you know, every once in a while, there's somebody who's done extraordinary stuff. And I think the town should recognize them. So I don't think we need a committee, but it can be a small committee that can be made up with when you get a name or two names that will come up from the town council. Is that something you think might work?
Yeah, I'm all for getting rid of the committee.
Yeah.
And the award, I could go either way, as long as we're not, forcing an annual
No,
award, then I'm okay with that.
So if I may,
yeah.
you did vote to get rid of this committee already.
No, then we're already
At
said.
the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, then
And same with the next one, just FYI. It's a great conversation, I just wanna let you know, we don't have to vote on it, it's already the recommendation's already going to be made. But I agree that,
I'm gonna put down move to disband with reservations as to
And the cable advisory.
an award not considered yearly or an exceptional
Yeah, award by exception.
to,
It would sort of be at the discretion of the council. I mean, if there's nominations or something like that, or there's something that happened, like Councilor Burdick just said at the transfer station, something comes up, then somebody makes a nomination and you happen to do it in the name of this award. I
Yeah.
think that's
But
fair.
that young man didn't have this, he wasn't like an unsung, well, I guess he
Well, yeah, it
wasn't.
was.
Yeah.
I mean, I
But he
guess
was
in a way.
recognized for his,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to
it's a
specifically.
one-time event as opposed to a sustained contribution.
I think,
Extraordinary.
I think that might be all right. You know, if something like that comes up, and you know, what are you gonna award him? Citizen of the Year, but the Jane Espo Award, I think, since she was such a service to this community, might be worth just keeping there. And doing it, like you said, when something extraordinary comes up.
Sounds great.
Okay, let's do that, so we'll move on. And then we had what was it, Cable TV Advisory Committee. And we decided that's no longer.
I'm gonna grab your water.
Okay. Questions, now we go to the standing committees. And do we have any ideas?
Agenda says
what
regulatory
is it?
boards.
Okay, regulatory boards, there you go. That's what we're gonna do. Go to regulatory. So, first one I have is the Barnstable Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is this on my list?
Is that?
That was that the original one, in the original packet that Cindy
Yeah.
gave us?
Yeah.
I know where it is.
Okay, so this only has that fund. And then she comes up with, Cindy has given us a list of the members of the
Which one are you
committees.
on now?
Like, this is the
Accessory affordable apartment.
Barnstable Affordable Housing / Growth and Development Trust Fund.
Not the,
Oh, sorry.
not
that
the
where we are?
accessible,
Right, right.
well, the
no,
one
of
that Mr. Ellis chairs.
Wells, I think Laura Schiffelt's on it.
Yeah.
Who was the other committee
Randy
member?
Clyburn is on
Randy
there, Mark
Clyburn.
Mills on there,
Yeah,
Director of Planning sometime, I don't know.
yeah, that's what I read. Where did I read that? Okay. I think this is obviously an important committee.
Well, we have
And
to
we're not
have
gonna
it
do- Not
too.
gonna do anything about it. Question is, should we, one thing I thought about this committee, it seems to be a lot of the town staff and not many counselors or anything else, or there are not many public here. So, I'm just trying to see if we got the purposes.
Yeah, I get that same sense too, whenever you tune into it, it's all town staff.
Yeah,
And frankly, when Laura's not there, they can't function.
yeah. So I was just wondering if, I don't have the list of members here on this. I was reading that somewhere.
This is the
Because
most-
Barnstable Housing Trust Fund.
Yeah, most of them say in there who they need to have, if they need to have a certain skill set.
What's the enabling, what enables this committee?
So I was gonna say, I think what I'm looking at is the Affordable Housing Growth and Development, that's a town manager appointed committee, it's not a regulatory.
Okay,
The regulatory would be licensing, Old Kings Highway, Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals. I think that's how Cindy set this up.
okay,
I think town manager appointed committees would be affordable housing, economic development, housing authority, Martin Flynn Scholarship, Santuit Pond Preserve, and Scholarship Committee. Does that sound right?
let me see if I've got it back here.
So can we even do anything with those?
No, I don't think so.
think
I
so.
mean, I can double check on that outside of this, cause I think that's not gonna be for today, cause that's not what the agenda says, but I can talk to the town manager and see if that's something that is even within the purview of this committee, because it is a town manager. And I think this committee is specifically to review committees
Of the
of the
town.
town council.
I think that it might be helpful for those committees to have its own category on the committees page, that these are town manager
Yeah, it would
appointed
be
committees.
helpful.
Because it's blended, it's not that clear to the electorate, to the residents. That this has a different, derives its authority differently from the town council, from the appointments committee. So either have them be color-coded or a separate category, or somehow to differentiate them from the 43 boards, committees, commissions that
Yeah.
Yeah.
that the public gets to see. Because it's taken me a while to discern
Yeah.
that difference.
So the regulatory boards,
All right,
that's the ones where
the regulatory boards are the Board of Health, and is the Airport Commission part of that?
Yes.
The Airport Commission,
Conservation Commission,
Council on Aging, Board of Assessors, Board of Health, Community Preservation Committee, Community Preservation Committee, let's see, Conservation Commission, Cultural Council, and these are all part of that? Disability Commission, and the Golf Committee.
So-
no, I don't
the golf committee.
think so.
Disability one.
The regulatory boards and committees are gonna be the ones that are granted their authority through state statute,
Okay,
and they have the ability to create regulations separate from town council essentially,
okay,
and operate in that way. So I don't know, are you looking at the binder that Cindy had given us?
Original
Yeah,
binder.
because you didn't do
So
the
I don't
Main
know if she
Street
put-
historic one, that's
Yeah.
regulatory.
I'm not sure if she put it in an order where, and that might be
Yeah.
where the confusion is.
Something like
What
council on
I'm-
aging, why would they be regulatory?
What I'm looking at is, and I think she had sent these to you all, but I don't know if it's in the binder or not. I just
Yeah.
pulled it from my email. But she had put in red and in parentheses advisory and regulatory board.
oh,
So I
okay,
think what it's going to be is Airport Commission, Board of Assessors, Board of Health, Conservation Commission, Licensing Authority, Old Kings Highway Historic District Commission, Planning Board, and Zoning Board of Appeals. And I would imagine if, I think also Hyannis Main Street Waterfront
Yeah, it
Historic
is.
Commission
Yeah.
as well, but she didn't put that in there. So we definitely, I think we could probably start the conversation, and we may want to double check on that list later on, because there's a lot of them anyway, so I don't know if we'd have time to do all of them anyways, but we can definitely start with a few on this list for sure. And then I'll double check, and maybe when Cindy's back, she can
Okay.
double check as well, that list is complete.
So my first question about this group of committees is, so what authority do we have?
Yeah.
Like, what would be the purpose, what is the purpose, I guess, or the proposed purpose of our review of these committees when those mostly are governed by statute? You know what I mean? So what authority or what are we trying
I don't
to
think we
talk
have any
about? You know what I
authority
mean?
in those
Like,
Well, there is one that we have significant authority over, and I talked to Chris about this, which is the Airport Commission.
Yeah.
I wanted to come forward through the town council and bring the Airport Commission under the town manager and make it a department head like the rest of the department heads.
There's no enabling legislation that for the airport commission that's in the charter?
It's in
Or
the
the
charter,
code.
yeah. There is Mass General Law, which is what they're operating under now, but home rule can supersede that.
You'd have to file a home rule petition.
We would have to go to the
General
voters.
court.
No, it would go to the voters. And
Oh,
it's
to
the
do a
voters.
charter
Yeah, it's a
amendment.
charter.
Yeah, if we change the charter,
Right,
that's
it's
a
not
whole.
state
Yeah.
law.
But to sort of help answer your question, I agree. I don't think there's much you can do on the regulatory boards. I think if there's something like Councilor Lucky just said, where it's a topic of concern, as how the committees are functioning. Otherwise, yeah, I think this should be kind of a quick
Yeah,
run
yeah,
through.
I think you're right. Maybe we can just start with the Airport Commission and put your.
well, I didn't bring my, but this happened twice in 2000 and I think 2006. They put it to the voters. and it was voted down, but I think with recent events, I think it would be wise to bring the airport under the auspices of the town and have more of an input on what they're doing. I know most people ignored the airport, as did I, before I kind of got assigned as a liaison and before that. That we really ought to be more watchful of what's going on over there and
Okay.
seeing if they're about to vote in a strategy tomorrow that's gonna significantly enlarge that airport. They're rebuilding the entire airport. They've started with one runway. It was only 5 inches. They had to make it 9. Now they're gonna do the second one.
5
They're gonna-
inches?
It was 5 inches thick. It's now 9.
Inches thick.
Um,
5 inches more.
The second one, they're gonna do the same. They're gonna eventually rebuild the terminal. I mean, they're rebuilding the entire airport, which is why, we talk about, oh, we're 89 million in debt. Well, how about 289 million when all is said and done? Do we really want that? I just think it would be better if they were under the town manager and had to function more as a cohesive body or department within the town. But it's ultimately up to the voters to decide that. When it was tried earlier, the president and town council at the time, by the name Clark, there was a caricature, a cartoon drawn of him, a Cape airplane flying, and he was on top of the Cape airplane with a sledgehammer, saying, if you vote for this, you'll destroy the airport. It gets, well, you all saw how things went on that vote where we asked for the study. The study. It gets very contentious, but to me, it's an enormous part of our town and our future. And if we want to have a say in it, we can. Most people just, don't want to look, don't want to see, but.
I can read the language off of the E-code if you like.
Sure.
So, the Airport Commission, term of office, there shall be an airport commission consisting of 7 members appointed for 3-year terms, provided that no more than 3 members' terms shall expire in any 1 year. Authorities and responsibilities. The Airport Commission is responsible for the custody, care, and maintenance of the Barnstable Municipal Airport, that already has a different name, as well as ensuring a safe and efficient operation under pertinent rules and regulations. The commission operates under the authorities provided to airport commissions pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 90, by the Barnstable Town Charter Ordinance, and by any other state and/or federal rules and regulations governing airports. The Airport Commission is a regulatory and ministerial committee of the town. The Airport Commission appoints an airport manager who is the executive officer of the commission and may also appoint an assistant airport manager. The Airport Commission may, consistent with state procurement regulations, let or lease land areas at the airport for up to 20 years, determine charges or rentals for property, facilities, installations, landing fees and services, and determine the terms and conditions for such charges. Subject to the approval of the town council, the Airport Commission may let or lease for longer periods. Do you want me to keep going?
I mean, I think I get it. I don't know, you guys wanna read it? Well, how long is it? Very long?
Okay.
But so my thought is, so that's quite a move. And if we're gonna do it, I don't think that, I mean, we could theoretically vote to make that kind of recommendation, but I mean, it's something that will really council and we'll all have a long fight about. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know how much value there is in us sitting around discussing it, if that's the way, do you know what I mean? How would you put that forth, and if that was what you wanted to do?
Well, I'd be willing to put it together, because I think there's wisdom in it. Again, I go to all these meetings, I see this. I just really wonder if this is what we want as a town of Barnstable, what they're proposing out there.
If I may.
Go ahead, please.
I hear both Councillor Lutke and Councillor Burdick, and after reading this, I'm wondering if through you, we could ask Attorney Cogliano to look into what these Mass General Laws, Chapter 90, that would be relevant to examining the function of the Airport Commission. I'll share with you that I was aware that the current airport manager was brought in with a significant salary and package. And the town manager explained to President Tamish and me that the Airport Commission has the authority to hire the manager and to expend those funds. But he was explaining, even though Katie Service is the airport manager, she also is a department head, and it, how do I want to say, it causes a little consternation with other department heads who are not as generously compensated. And it's not answerable to the town manager, but answerable to the commission. So it's a outlier in the way that the town functions. And I wasn't quite aware of that until more recently.
But nothing that they do, I mean, so I guess there's a few different ways to look at it, I mean, based on what you just said. So it's an enterprise funded, I mean, then that doesn't excuse everything that they do, but it is an enterprise fund account and it does generate revenue that it kicks back into the general fund. So I don't know, when it comes to compensation, there's not, I mean, there's golf, but there isn't anything that gives us back that much money, really, right? In terms of the airport, it's one way of thinking about the compensation aspect, but I mean, that's beside the point. Nothing that they do as a regulatory body, they're not the final word in any of their decision-making. It has to come before the council. We rejected their plan to
They were gonna study the
terminal thing,
terminal.
remember?
Yes.
We said no, and they didn't do it. I mean, it's kind of like, the same thing with the school department. It's a less independent version of the school department, which it is a department of the town. And all of their stuff comes before us, and we have, in their capital budget, obviously, we have the right to say yes or no on an individual item. In their operating budget, we don't, because the general laws determine how that works. But they're not really that independent. I mean, they really are a regulatory body. And so we can always
the
tell
school
them.
committee?
No,
the
airport commission.
Oh, they're entirely independent.
But they,
Yeah, but, well,
They-
that's
it
the
comes
first
to
vote.
us.
That's the first vote everyone's ever said no to them.
right, well, maybe the times are changing. Because they can
I'm
come up
just
with this
saying.
plan, this huge plan of
Well,
theirs.
they're
and
voting
we
on
can-
their strategy, and what they're gonna do is hold the airport manager accountable to the strategy to meet the objectives and goals in that strategy, which includes enticing new air carriers, building a new terminal with 3 jet bridges. I'm just saying,
Right, and that's.
you're getting into a whole new ballpark here, because they're going flat out.
So as a function of this committee, our responsibility would be to say, in the process of our review, that we recommend that we pursue a charter change to abolish the commission and reorient the airport. We'd like to have the airport now
Have the
be
airport manager work for the town manager, like a normal department head.
But I'm suggesting that Attorney Cogliano look
Yeah.
into the relationship as the
Well,
state
that
or
section
federal
90
regulator.
was about their ability to let land.
So it would be chapter 90, section
Chapter
51E.
That's specifically related to their ability to lease property.
It's airport commissions for municipal airports. No, it's just the creation
Just
of the
general,
airport commission. Exactly. I don't know about the leasing of property, but if you look at our ordinances, at similar, kind of going off of what Councilor Burdick is saying, what is 241-10C is interrelationships, and that lays out what kind of relationship they're supposed to have with town council as well as town manager. And it says, the airport commission interacts with town council in a manner of developing policies and legislation concerned with the issues and problems inherent in the operation and maintenance of the Barnstable Municipal Airport. The airport commission interacts primarily with the council committee on finance in order to regularly apprise the committee on current activities and concerns of the airport commission. So whether or not they're doing it to up, your standards, that they are obligated through the ordinances to maintain that interrelationship, so.
And so, I mean, I just think a charter change is a big ask for anybody. And I mean, it's fun, I'm not saying that there's not what we should, I mean, if that's the way that the committee would like to recommend that the council go, and then if the council subsequently says, yes, we think this is a great idea, that's one thing. I'm saying that there are, and I may not even, what I'm saying right now may not even be within the purview of this committee, but that there are levers that can be pulled that would be less onerous
I see.
to be able to, and the same thing is true of the schools, though, that our council, I mean, the council traditionally hasn't really done that. But there are levers that can be pulled in order to, affect a change or a change of direction in a body that is in the charter, that isn't just something that we have created through our legislative actions. Do you know what I mean?
But, I
The
mean,
only thing I would say, in your analogy of the airport commission to the school committee answers to the school board that are elected.
Right.
The appointments committee appoints the
But it's still a
commission.
department of the town.
well, not really.
The school
mean,
committee?
no,
Or the school
the
department?
school committee, yeah,
The
yeah.
school department is a department of the town.
Yeah,
I mean,
It takes 60% of the budget,
yeah.
but we have to agree to that.
yes.
We don't take, we give. You know what I mean? Each of we can turn their budget down and say, nope, come back with something different.
Yeah.
We can't line item their operating
Correct, yes,
budget, but we can reject the entire budget.
Well, that's basically, that would be the only lever if you're talking about that with the airport. You'd have to come in at the point that they're asking for funding
Right,
versus
when-
getting in at an earlier point, which is their master plan or their strategy or things like that.
Right, I mean, yeah, I suppose, I see
I
what
just
you're-
think it's a
what you're
very
saying.
serious part of this town that has been completely, I know people think I'm kind of crazy on this subject because nobody else will look at it. It's been ignored for years.
Right.
And they are doing things that will have enormous impacts. They're buying off airport easements. I mean, they've already made some building impossible in Independence Park. They're going into the neighborhoods to buy easements. They're bringing in 737s, Airbuses. It's a different animal. It's a totally different animal.
And as an enterprise fund, I'm not so sure that it contributes to the
They
general fund.
don't. The only thing that comes to the general fund, they get the lease money from the landing, we get the taxes, we get a portion of the solar panels, the rest
They keep,
they keep.
Right, but it's still the town's money.
No, the only thing town's on the hook for paying back the grant money.
Right, but we as the legislative body have the ultimate authority over all of these things. Anything that isn't
Well, you're
governed
right,
by
it's the vote of
statute.
but,
Do you know what I mean? Like, so we have, well, anyway, this is beside the point.
no,
But
it's a
you see
good
what I'm trying to say?
discussion.
It's that we already have the power over the airport to regulate them.
But nobody's ever voted no except that time because, as I say, a previous president said to me, what do I care, 95% from the FAA. Is that a rationale for voting for something? 95% of the funding is coming from another entity? Does that mean we disregard all the impacts? Sounds kind of simplistic to me, but in any event, Allison, you could look at, it was on the 2005 ballot. You could look at the language that went out because that was cleared by legal at the time. But a longer discussion, I think it's a huge part of the community and I see your point.
Right.
If we are gonna say, no, we're not gonna give you that 9-inch runway,
Right, and then it doesn't happen.
then it doesn't happen, but
I just think that, I mean, I don't know I'm curious about mechanically speaking, what, we would probably have to talk about it more than once to get to that point where
you're
we would
asking,
then
because nobody's
recommend-
looked at it, you're asking really good questions.
Yeah, well, we'll see, I guess. Maybe we can continue to think about it.
Okay.
Or,
but I think Attorney Cogliano can help us with that.
She plays a big part in
Oh, of
getting the
course.
language right for that.
And
that's what
getting
lawyers are
the
good at.
information on where the authority lies when it comes to feds and state as the E-code references.
Yeah,
But it did make me cringe a little bit when I heard the town manager's perspective that that the airport manager had a generous package that caused, you know, some uncomfortableness with the other long-serving staff directors
and it should,
out of just general equity.
and you're right.
Well, how much different is it? By an order of magnitude?
I
What was
don't,
their salaries,
I can't
200,000?
I don't know anybody's individual salaries, but it
It's all
was,
public record. I mean,
Well, ours are public, I mean, I think
everybody's
your
is public.
contracts are.
It's all in the budget. Everybody's compensation is public if you're a municipal employee. But I mean, I don't know that sour grapes is a good reason to say that we should bring on a cheaper airport. I mean, again, this is beside the point. I don't think that, okay, I opine.
So, we'll leave that till we know more information. Okay, what do we have next for regulatory?
Board of Assessors.
Board of Assessors? Like I said, I don't know what our authority is on any of these things.
Well, I might suggest if, you know, similar to what Counselor Lucky just did, if there are any of these regulatory boards that any of you have particular concerns with, bring those forward first.
Yeah.
And then maybe, once we conclude this meeting, there could be, you can look into it more. But I think we're all in agreement that there's not much.
Yeah, I think we should probably,
One thing that everybody talks about that I think is a good idea, and I don't know if this would be if this can be a part of a recommendation that comes from this committee, and then we also, the committees that you and I are on, the one that's gonna start doing the town code. But should we have term limits on regulatory bodies? Could we make a recommendation as a result of our assessment or whatever of our review of these committees and their functionality, say that in an effort to improve their functionality and whatever, however you wanna phrase it, that we should have term limits for regulatory bodies specifically, or all of them?
I think absolutely there should be term limits for regulatory bodies. I think it keeps it fresh. I think there's the argument for experience, but I think sometimes experience breeds, but
People get stuck
people
in their
get
ways.
complacent, I
Yeah.
guess is the word, versus, freshly, evaluating things.
Right.
And you become like, oh, he's the head of that, It'd be their favoritism, that kind of thing. I think, with the regulatory, I think it would be healthy to do that.
Because as
I
it
don't know what you
stands,
guys
mortality
think.
is the only term limit that exists here.
Well, I know on the assessors, there's a 90-some-year-old. It was. He was in his 90s.
So that, I mean, at least since I, at least in my opinion, for what it's worth, that we have limited ability to do anything to the regulatory bodies except to ensure that there's consistent changeover so that, you have, as you say, fresh ideas, new perspectives, and you're not having one that's so entrenched that you lose out on the future or, you know what I mean? Like, you don't stagnate.
Yeah.
I happen to agree with that, and,
I know that's been asked, that has been suggested to us, or to me, through the Rules and Code Committee. I said, oh, that would not be under our purview, but I do think it's under the
Yeah.
purview of the Committee on Committees.
And it might be within the code too, though, because that is, I mean, these are the enabling legislation for these committees is in the code, not necessarily the regulatory ones, but the other ones, right?
I don't think, I may be wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen term limits on any of these. They tell you who's supposed to be on it, whether the town manager or a certain amount of counselors or a certain amount of residents can be on these committees, but nothing about term limits.
Right.
And I happen to think that might be a good idea. I really do think it's a good idea, to tell you the truth. And the question is, are we determining term limits for each committee separately or all together?
For me anyway, I would say just one. And you could have it, even if people find it if people balk at it or say it's too repressive, you could have a cooling off period of whatever, skip a term.
Well, that's what they have for town council, right?
Right.
Is the cooling off, and then if you wanted to
You
come
could
back.
run again, I guess, after 12 years. Can you? Is that in the code?
Yes,
It is?
you can. You have to have a break.
So, it seems logical. Maybe you make it like 6 years or something, or 4 years, and then say you gotta go off for a while, and then if you could come back on in 2 years or 4 years or whatever.
I like it, I really do.
I do too.
I mean, just the other night, I mean, CFAC is not regulatory, but I'm the liaison to that, they have a couple new people, and it was kind of cool watching their brains
Right.
and the questions they asked.
Yeah, because you get a whole new perspective.
You get a new perspective, and it was really interesting. In fact, I commented, I said, I love this new perspective. You're asking things that some people say, oh, that's, but they're asking them in a way like, does this make sense?
Right.
So when you bring that freshness in there, will we get enough volunteers though?
Who knows? I mean, we've had a pretty good, the appointments committee has been on hiatus now for, in my opinion, far too long.
Aren't you meeting?
We're meeting next week,
Yeah.
Thursday,
For the first
Wednesday.
time, the new committee.
I'm not on
The new
it.
But it's
committee,
been like, when did we have our last meeting? Was
long time.
months.
Yeah.
So, but we've had a pretty good run, I think.
Well, maybe
I mean,
you could get more people knowing that,
right, more
Sure.
spots open up, maybe it would be more, if the committees are a little bit more dynamic, or if you don't feel
Right.
like that they're gonna be so stodgy, you don't have these stalwarts. We have a few stalwarts who have been hanging out for
yes.
25
And it's
years.
not that
Decades.
people who have been long-serving can't serve on another committee.
Right, they could, well, maybe, I don't know, we'd have to determine what that, how that, can you switch committees, or do you have to come out of the service for X amount? I mean, I'm sure you could switch, or
Well,
what,
we
I
have a
don't
lot
know.
of people on many committees.
Right, and then there's a lot of lateral on this committee, on this
Yeah,
committee,
well,
there's a
that
few
we've
of those
said in
too,
there,
and that, I
yes.
don't think that's any good necessarily.
Well, that's one, I agree about the term limits, and you mentioned 6 years, but I might float. 12 years is when the council is a council term limit. And that might be something to say, okay, we're not expecting limitations any different from what we expect of ourselves as councilors. But when it comes to serving on more than one committee, what happens is some committees are disabled. This morning we met with the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, and that committee is prescribed to have one person from the Historical Commission, one person from Housing, one from the Conservation Commission. So they're actually down 2 people because they don't have a volunteer to do double duty from Recreation and Historic. So now the CPC has 2 absences already before they make any decisions. And trying to farm an additional person from a body of 9 people who none want to meet more often than
Right.
Recreation has become a problem. Because on Sandy Neck Board, I sit on that, there's a member from Recreation as well. So some committees are asked purposefully to do double duty. So I'd caution against trying to limit, because it's already disabling some of those
What about
committees.
regulatory boards? We're on regulatory boards.
Yeah, regulatory is another thing.
Right, because we have one person in particular who I know is on 3 regulatory boards. Right? Is it 2 or 3? He is on.
Health and Concom,
And then also the non-regulatory board is the Community
CPC.
Preservation Committee.
right, and he's on CPC as a liaison from,
And I realize it's outside of the regulatory committees, but does the CPA dictate the census or the makeup of the Community Preservation Committee itself?
I'll check, I do not know.
it does.
There does.
The act, it does say specifically in the act that you
Yes.
must have one of each of these boards.
Yep. Not all, they're like, on our committee, I think, different towns have different number of members, but in our town, there's room for at-large people. But there were, I think, 5 specific ones or something like that.
They're in the act.
And in Barnstable, because our Conservation Commission is probably the busiest in the state, that the conservation representative is more preoccupied with, on the Conservation Commission, regulatory stuff than they do with representing open space acquisitions. That's not part of their agenda typically. So in our town, we have an open space committee that takes
Yeah.
that function that might be wrapped into the functions of other municipalities.
Okay, well,
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Allison.
Trying to find it right now.
Top of my
Well, I
head.
like the term limit thing. I'd like to split what you said. I'd like to go 8 years. I think 12 is too much.
I'd like to go 6, but I think we can figure out something in between.
I like.
But what are the,
Bet you can't do
Yeah,
7.
6.
what are the, like, for example, what are the terms of somebody on the,
Yeah, what
Planning-
are the-
planning.
Isn't
Mostly
everything
1 year,
3
right?
years?
I think they're 3 years.
3 years.
So 2 terms would be 6.
Then that makes sense.
And then you'd have to go off and then, take a break and maybe come back if you wanted 3 years later.
1 year later. Well, in 3 years, because that's right.
1 year, 3 years later.
Don't we stagger the people?
On the, yeah, I mean, it
Aren't they
generally works
staggered?
out that way, right? It depends how long a
Not
vacancy
everybody
stays
is,
open.
I mean, if you're doing
Yeah.
all of them, that won't work.
It'd have to be
Everything has to
staggered
be
term.
staggered, right?
We try to, or it's set up in the hopes that it gets staggered, but on the other hand, in reality, it's all over the place because people come and go or
Yeah, they
leave.
quit or
get
die,
sick.
or a vacancy stays open.
I'd like
for
to
a
say,
long time.
if it's 3-year terms, 2 consecutive terms,
Well, I'd go with 6.
and 6 years. And also, I think we ought to have something about the number of committees you can be on. No more than, say, 2, or no more than,
I think especially
No more
with
than one.
regulatory ones, because a regulatory committee has real authority and power over
Yeah.
what goes on. And not to say that, it's not to say that people are nefarious in their endeavors or whatever, and I
No,
love
but
it.
they
when
start to
people-
become influenced. I think it's just a
Yeah.
And
natural,
you become an institution, and
Yeah.
that isn't always a good thing.
Right.
I mean,
so do you like, one committee? You can, only one committee, one regulatory committee at once?
I mean, there's not
well,
a
is that
ton of
gonna impact what,
regulatory.
Chris, have we
Yeah,
done the
that's what I'm saying.
research on this matrix?
Well, the CPA is the only one that was,
Any
Well,
others?
that's a
like Sandy Neck
regulatory,
Board is
but
looking,
that's not a regulatory body.
right.
Those are advisory commissions.
Al-
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm looking at the Community Preservation Act. It says, city or town shall establish by ordinance a community preservation committee. The committee shall consist of not less than 5 nor more than 9 members. The ordinance shall determine the composition of the
Right, so
committee,
it's our.
the
code.
length of its term, and the method of selecting its members, whether by election or appointment, or by combination thereof.
So I imagine any of those committees where you have overlap, where there's it's a code thing.
Hold on.
Or, oh no, you should have read the whole thing first. before
Yeah,
you go
it's
on.
long. The committee shall include but not be limited to 1 member of the Conservation Commission,
Oh, see, you were right, Chris.
1 member of the Historical Commission, 1 member of the Planning Board, 1 member of the Board of Park Commissioners.
So then there you go. See,
So, yeah.
See, you should have.
So it says by ordinance, you can come up with the makeup, but here's the makeup.
Yes. And because we don't have a Parks and Rec, we have a Recreation Commission.
Well, then 2 committees? Because you wouldn't wanna, if they have to go to another committee, you'd want someone else, I think.
But if it's just a,
Taking this one person and they're they get farmed out to all the other ones.
but if it was just regulatory committees,
That's what I'm saying, just regulatory, but
so then the person, all the people on the community, or on the Conservation Commission would be eligible to then serve on the
right.
Community Preservation Committee or the Sandy Neck Board or
So then
whatever.
not more than 2? Is that what you wanna say?
I would say not more than 1 regulatory body,
No, but
And
they
then
have
you-
to be set.
but that's not a regulatory
Yeah.
body.
CPC is not
It's
regular.
considered an advisory.
What about planning or this somebody?
Those are regulatory.
I know, but they don't have any requirements for somebody from somewhere else?
Well, you could also say, only 1 regulatory committee unless you're required to be a part of another one by statute, something like that.
Well, you listed under the regulatory both health and CPC,
Yeah, health
or that's
department,
what.
yeah.
So
Nothing else.
it-
And doesn't
would
health
CPC be
need
regular?
somebody from?
I don't think that's a
CPC.
regulatory. I'll make sure I finalize a
Okay.
list of
Yeah, let's get
regulatory,
it finalized so we can.
just so we know, cause I think we're all working on off of different lists. And the one I have in front of me, Cindy had put in parentheses. So
Yeah,
next
okay.
time we'll definitely we can continue on, and then we'll definitely have a final list.
But I agree with that.
Like the licensing committee, I bet those people have been there, the assessors forever.
Licensing
No,
has
no,
had some
we-
change because
Yeah.
Mr. Hoxie is on, you for 40 years, wasn't he?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
Allison, if we can get just a list, just list the committees, regulatory and advisory, and none of this other stuff, we don't need elected, we go over here.
Well, 3 lists, regulatory, advisory, and town manager.
Town manager appoints,
So
yeah,
pull those
I'll
apart.
work with Cindy on that
yeah,
and try to make it more clear so that we understand what we're reviewing
yeah.
when we talk about regulatory versus advisory.
Yeah,
Now, do
and
you
maybe,
guys, do the appointments interview the other people though? Like if somebody needs to come off the planning committee to go on the board, I mean, do you have to interview them again for?
To be the representative on another board,
Yeah.
I haven't had that happen.
No, I think
I
it's
mean, they
the,
just say, you
the
need meeny,
recreation-
miny, mo, come on over here?
no, I think they're looking for just anyone willing. It's
And
that,
I'm saying, is that how it's done? Is
Yeah.
it that informal, that who's ever willing, come on over?
I honestly don't know. I know that we haven't interviewed anybody for that cross thing. I think that the chair of the committee will ask someone and then they'll bring them on and maybe they vote on it.
I think the bigger problem is that nobody wants to do.
Okay.
Well, like I said, there's that to a certain extent, but we turned away like in our appointments probably this year, I don't even know.
Good point.
We turned away a lot of people. And when we did that ad hoc committee thing, we turned away 50 people. You know, I don't think we do sometimes, it seems sometimes like there's a limited pool because people want to do specific committees. But I think that when I first started on the appointments committee, I thought that we need to be less restrictive. We need to at least give people a shot. We need to not be so picky about who we're going to put where, within reason, of course. Because I thought, man, there's a limited pool of people who wants to volunteer and so on. But as things ramped up last year, a lot of people were applying for a lot of different things.
And if they know about these term limits, they might say, oh, okay, it might, get a new
Provide
breed
more
in here.
openings, because the reason why we turned
Yeah.
away so many, because there's not
Right, on a
as
given
many.
committee, especially where there was a popular committee or a hot button committee or whatever. I don't know.
And I will go back again to the extent, not to belabor the airport, but years ago when they tried, that's why they tried these ballot initiatives, because things were ugly at the airport. They went up to Boston, to Mass Aeronautics, and they got the airport terms down to 1 year. So when these guys came up, the town council voted 3 of them off because it was so contentious what was going on there. So, I don't think we've ever done that in our modern history where we voted people off at the town council. Because everyone says, oh, you're town council appointed. But how many times has the town council voted against anyone? Right? We never do.
Generally.
might change.
Though there have been, at the appointments committee, we've not voted to bring people to.
Yeah.
I have seen in the past that there's been someone who has not been reappointed.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry to start that lengthy conversation.
No, I think that's good.
It's a good conversation.
So the
Appointments com-
council may tell us to drop dead, but
Yeah, but we're just making recommendations.
And we
They
might.
can drop dead of the whole thing. I think, I do believe in term limits. I think we have 2 terms for most of these 3 years. I think that would be good. We've got to decide how many committees one person can. Maybe we say that they can only serve on one other committee, but not as chair.
That's kind of what Allison was saying, some sort of language like that. I like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
they can't have the same chair in 2 different committees. I think
That's not good.
that's a conflict, and not a conflict, but it's a troublesome thing. And so I would say, well, we'll talk about it some more, but I think that's something we ought to do, because I've seen, and also, I think these appointments all have to go through the appointments committee.
Yeah.
Even if somebody's on this other committee, you know him, he's gonna bring up his resume and talk about what his abilities are for this other committee versus something else, because we've had a number of times where this guy's on this committee because this is the way they worked it out, and you get the same players on important committees, and that causes some possible issues.
Well, there's nothing fresh anymore.
Yeah. We just seem to have the retreads all over the place, but what you were saying with how many people you got for some of these popular committees or important committees, we do have enough people putting their names in.
yeah, I think for regulatory committees especially.
Right.
And they ultimately,
Yeah.
in my way of thinking, are the ones that we need to keep coming because
Absolutely,
they have real world impact
Yeah.
on what's going on out there. Everybody else is making a recommendation to the council, so it's like,
Well, and also we end up in court, I mean.
Well, there you go.
We said names the other day, I won't mention any names, but we just came back from a court case
Yeah.
that we lost. I mean, our regulatory committees need to be on their game, okay? You know, it's serious business where the town can be taken to court,
For sure.
yeah.
All right, do we wanna have some,
That's
do we wanna
about all we can
formalize
do.
anything here at this point about term limits and numbers of committees that one person can be on or be at the same time and or chair or not chair or something like that?
I mean, I don't know, should we?
I'm ready, I don't know, Chris, are you
Yeah, that's
okay
fine.
Are
with?
you still thinking?
I would be reluctant to put any, or to support messing with who could or should be chair. When it comes to a group of folks, just like when you get picked for a jury, not everyone's got the chops to be a leader, you know, or
This is true.
to understand, you know, when to get the agenda in, or how to, you know, rally the troops and, you know, you've been absent for this long, and reach out to a fellow member. So I've thought, oh, in a perfect world, it'd be great if everyone just took turns being a chair. But having been one, and have seen others not function
Right, it's painful.
to the town's benefit,
Yeah,
not everyone has the either the time or the experience or the dedication to be the leader of a group.
But on like a 5 to 7 member committee, and these are regulatory committees, so these are some of the people with more experience and smarter on the particular committee they want to be on. I don't think that, to me, I don't think that would be a problem with the other people. I think the more of a problem would be having the same guy or same woman as chairs 2 committees at one time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just even cut that even shorter and say you can only be on
One
one
committee.
regulatory
I
committee,
agree.
period.
Okay,
and
You
you
know what I
can
mean?
be the,
You could be a liaison to
You
an
can be
advisory
the-
committee.
okay.
well, yeah,
but- Right, but not,
I'm okay
two
with that.
regulatory.
I think that cleans it up, yeah.
I agree with Seth.
And I agree with the 2 3-year terms as well, I think that's, if that's how that's divvied
absolutely.
up, yeah.
All right, you want to put on the term start and do a,
All right, I'll make a
Motion.
motion to the town council that for our regulatory committees of the town, that we limit 2 consecutive 3-year terms, at which time a break would have to happen.
We can clean it up, Allison, we'll make it pretty and make it nice.
all right, I get a second for that? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Okay, and then number of committees, one member can be, number of committees a person can be on, a regulatory committee, and one person can be on it at one time,
Right,
is only one.
yeah,
Is
so
that something we're okay with?
Mhm.
All right, we got
I'll
second?
make a motion to,
He said so.
are we okay with, yeah, I think we
yeah,
said,
so
okay,
as written.
that's written, there
Okay.
you go.
All right, and so all in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Did
Aye.
you second
Yes, you did.
Second?
it? Okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, where do we go from here? We got, we're not gonna make any decisions on regulatory committees other than that. I don't think so, because these are all done.
No,
And
I think,
again, I'd like to leave the airport one open.
Yeah, okay,
And Allison can do some work, and I can collect some things that I've had from this.
okay.
Just because I'm the liaison, I live and breathe this, and I listen, and I get genuinely concerned.
you're a very faithful liaison.
And I mean, my point in, you know, not the opposite, but just in out of
Perspective.
making sure that you got all of it lined up. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
good case, if we're gonna, if we
Oh,
were to
no, it has to be
recommend-
careful, that's what I say,
Yeah,
Seth, I have some
absolutely.
background stuff
sure you
from
do.
2000 and 2005, and some letters and things like that from people that,
Yeah, that we don't wanna, I mean, if we do go in
no,
that
it's
direction.
not a knee jerk, this is
Yeah,
not
but
at all that.
And she's been on it for a long time.
It's I look at it as, I wish we could have our strategy, right? I
Yes,
look at
you
it as a strategic part of the planning of the town to have a huge entity like that orbiting and then
Right.
only entering us for 5% funding, which everyone says, oh, just 5%. It's a little scary to me, but.
Okay, well, I'm gonna leave it at that, because Allison, you're gonna bring us that list of the three different types of committees. We're done with the ones that are the marginal ones, we defunct, we already said, so we need the regulatory and the advisory committees. And then we can take a look at those. Regulatory, I think the only thing we can do is what we just did. And so we'll look at advisories from then on. I wanna move now to the, go
If I
ahead.
may. I think that the town manager asked the directors to review all the committees that they deal with. So from the staff's point of view, I think that was an ask made by leadership to the town manager to make sure the directors have some feedback. There's things, when it comes to evaluating any of our committees that are woefully stale.
Yes.
So if the directors can understand that there are two categories we're looking at, the regulatory bodies and the advisory bodies, that if they have any comment, I want to make sure that we offer an avenue for their input.
So I think I want to make that list with those categorized committees, send it to Cindy to send to you all ahead of time so that not only can you all review what's a regulatory committee so that we don't have to end that conversation without knowing. And you may see the list and think of something that, you happen to have a concern about. And then simultaneously I'll ask, I guess, the town manager, or I'll ask the town attorney to talk to the town manager about reminding the department heads, finding out if there was any feedback that we could potentially talk about regulatories, and then we can move on to advisories.
And when we do get to advisory committees, if we wanted to be real serious about it, we could set a schedule and invite the chair of those committees.
I like
on the
that
day that we
idea a
discuss.
lot.
We could set it up so that we
Yes.
we know this day we're gonna do this committee and maybe this committee. We're gonna do 15 minutes, we're gonna find out, how do you feel this committee is set up for, is it set up for success? How do you feel that the code and, whatever, how your interactions with the town, the council, do you feel like this is effective, not, so on, whatever. And then we could do it that way, at least then we would, granted it's a lot of committees, I don't know how, maybe a mistake for me to even suggest it, but that at least would be a comprehensive approach to the functionality, because we could sit here all day and talk about, I think that this one is no good, and I think that one sucks, but if we had them actually come out, and then if we had something from the department heads, which those advisory bodies interact with, or whatever, then we can then use those things to come up with a triangulated.
That's a good idea.
That's
Sounds
a good
Yeah, I
good.
like that. I like that a lot, Sam.
So, it may take forever, but.
No,
The question is,
these are quote
once we get that
advisory.
list, or you can send it to me early, we can share it around, and we can invite to our next meeting, 2 or 3 directors, or
Yeah,
whatever,
we
and
should
see.
start with the
and just
next
start
meeting,
right up.
yeah.
Well, I think we can get the list out to you all.
Yeah.
Next meeting, we can look at the list and we can
Okay.
say, okay, maybe we invite these 3 to the next meeting, these 3 to that way Cindy can do it. Cindy can reach out
Sure.
to them.
Good strategy.
Because we want to be mindful about open meeting law, obviously, so
Yeah.
as much as Cindy and I can do.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds
I
good.
think that's a good, I think number 1 is getting that list in those categories so that you have a clear picture. And then whatever you want to put on the agenda for next meeting, whether it's to continue on with the regulatory or just to move on to advisory, or both, probably put both on there.
And these are advisory, to quote the town council,
Yes,
like the golf committee.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as a town councilor, I have no interaction or anything with the golf
And the
committee.
youth commission, and, there's all kinds of them.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff.
So, I mean,
Why are they called advisory to the town I'm just asking.
Right.
It
Well, that's
seems
it.
weird to me, because there's many, like disability.
like they work with, or like a lot of them work with the department heads, as you say, like
Yeah.
George Noonan, the staff liaison, whatever, administrator for that, why did the word just
Youth
escape me?
commission.
Youth
Youth
commission, there you
commission.
go. But that, they work with them more than they work with us. But
you know, we can at least get a picture of what's going on, and who's doing what, how everybody feels. And then if we keep, you know, if we, on the next agenda, if you keep the agendas somewhat broad, you know, we can have more of a discussion about the direction of this committee, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we can go launch into a more.
Okay, this committee is chartered for finishing up at what date, do we know?
I think I wanna say it's March 31st.
End of March.
But didn't we change it
No,
so that
that's
it was
impossible.
I-
a time frame instead of the original?
We just
Sun-
I
started.
think the idea, at least in the conversation we had during our ad hoc on the town code, was that we were going to stagger them out.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
I just don't know that that was ever officially
We
done.
never did that? I thought we
We'll
did.
have to
Which
extend.
I think it's as simple as asking the council president for more time.
Yeah.
And the council
think
vice president.
I can
so
do that. And the other thing is, if we're gonna, say, interview all these directors, it's gonna take a long time.
Right.
So the question is, maybe we gotta pare the list down to something that we consider the most important groups.
Yeah, the low hanging fruit, or
Low-hanging
wherever
fruit.
you say that.
You know,
maybe
I don't
this
think
is
we
one
need to hear about the
look
golf
at.
commission or the aging commission, but
We may.
we may, but, yeah.
Do we need a golf commission?
No, we're not, no, we're leaving, those are already, that's a, enterprise fund commission, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's another enterprise
Yeah.
fund, that's
I know,
for
but
community
can't
services.
whoever runs the golf, I mean, can't they?
Well, I'm sure we can ask him to come in.
I mean, there's
find
not
out.
a Department of Public Works Commission.
No.
And
Right?
there used to be.
Yes, there
Yeah,
used to
well, there's no, I'm just saying, do we really need a golf
It
commission?
used to be, and it was merged with the recycling commission or something like that, that now is infrastructure.
But the
Now,
best
we do
way
have a water board, but that's part
for
of,
the high end,
that's
that's part of
not,
DPW too, but that's also in the water.
Town appointed committee.
that's
Town
the one.
manager.
Town manager
Town
appointed
manager
committee.
one.
We got a lot of layers.
No, I just think we ought to look at them all. You know,
So actually, I have a recommendation to Allison, and I don't know, maybe it needs to just go to the town manager, that these three categories be organized as categories on the town's website, because right now it's a big blob of
Yeah.
43 boards, committees, commissions.
Yeah.
But to say these are regulatory, I would say that would probably be the
That'd be the number one,
most-
yeah.
most influential.
Yeah.
And second would be the advisory, but then the town manager appointed commissions, so that it's pulled out that this is not our authority or our domain.
I like that. That's something we could do immediately. I mean, that could be a recommendation of our,
Yeah.
to better organize these things so people can sort through them.
Larry, do you have something to say?
Yeah, a lot to say. I'm sitting here because I can see you better. I'm giving these to you, but I'll hold off on them. I want to remind you that I am not here to interfere or intrude with you. I'm here to help you and support you. And my focus has been on the committees themselves, on the application process, and on the documents and procedures that affect them. Maybe other things, but listening to you all, I've come up with some other comments to make that hopefully will be beneficial to you. The term limit thing is been lingering for quite a while. Back, actually, 6 years ago, it came up before the town council, and it was tabled for reasons that I really don't know. In the process, I started right after July, when I first met Betty at the Hyannis post office. I started studying things, and I've gone through at length the chapter 241. It's a separate subject in a minute. But I have drafted an entire term limit proposal that is suited to apply to all committees. I'll be glad to give it to you, if that'll help you with something. And I'm going to edit it a little bit. My computer broke down, but now it's working. I've also, one of the things that has come up, and I'm going to be very candid about this, is that when the multiple committees that certain people are on multiple times, their elected chair, or the way they do things. One of the things that Chris brought up dealt with some of these committees have certain people off certain other committees. Let me tell you about Tom Lee. He's been chair for 9 years, or 10. He has gotten to the point that he elects himself as chair each year. And every time there's an appointment to another committee, the only one that's been allowed to go anywhere else is Pete Sampu to Sandy Neck. Otherwise, Lee has appointed himself to every other committee. That's the kind of thing you've been dealing with. What I've put in, what I've prepared for you, focuses on the liaison process. I've loaded a lot of issues in there for you to consider, because the appointments and the whole committee process includes liaison, it includes ad hoc, it includes standing committees, it includes all the supplemental issues underneath that. I am going to be attending the appointments committee a week from yesterday, which is the 18th. I've already talked to Jeff about it. I know Chris is on it. You're on it. You're on it, and so is Kristen. So what I'm looking at there is that there's a number of what I would call subtitles or subcategories underneath the appointments committee. Last year I did contribute some question formats, and I also created, I forgot the word for it, but it was a template. That was what I created, a template to make each committee be uniform. And that's where Chapter 241 exposed to me all the flaws in that document. It has not really been cared for well at all. So I'm delighted that all five of you are back this year. I think that, John, were you on last year, John?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not on it this year.
You're not on it this year. Okay. So in any event, I think the carryover from last year of several people that are still on it is beneficial, because I felt that as that committee went into the season, especially when they hit the ad hoc interviews, they got better and stronger and much more efficient. So in that case, I think it's good to have that carryover. With Seth's comment about inviting chairs or directors, whatever you want to call them, from any of the other committees, I've attended many of those committees. I've probably attended more committees than many other people in the town this year. I'm not taking any compliment for that. All it gets me is free parking down here. But that being the case, if you would like any format for questions to speed it up for you when you do this, I'll be glad to do that. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you a format. If you'd like it, tell me and I'll do it for you. I'll have it out in a couple of days. In the document I've given you today, there's a big gap that I'm reciting, and that is lack of training. When people are on town council, that Betty is obvious to be with airport. Where else would she be? Not other places. And you've been with Shellfish and all the other things like that. But there has been a lack of training, not only between the council to the liaison process, but also within the committees. When I got on the Conservation Committee in 2005, it took me 6 years to figure out what the hell I was doing. The only person that helped me was Pete Sampu, and we walk in the water and out in the bay somewhere. That was it. So there is not this continuity that you might expect is there. That needs to be something that's passed down from the top. We can do things from the bottom up, but we can also do things from the top down. It may be something you want to consider. I'm trying to read my own notes here and figure out what I wrote. Chris brought up the town manager role in his committees. It has bothered me conceptually, not because the town manager has committees, but because we know so little about them. In that particular case, I think you suggested that they have their own presentation clearly marked as to what it is. That's essential. And that's something that I would draft, and I'm going to draft, no matter who else does it, I'm going to draft a revision to 241 and see if that helps anybody process it. Let's see, what else we came up with? Historical came up. Then you're also trying to limit the number of people that can be on a committee. I think if you do that, the smart way to do it is to build in a waiver. By that, I mean, if you limit John and Mary to 2 committees, but if they're valuable and useful in another committee, all you gotta do is apply to the town council or to somebody else who has authority to do so, just to waive it and extend that limitation. You don't need to come back and amend 241 to do it. But I think it's very valuable to limit things. And there are multiple committees. The only committee that I know of that created their own term limits is the Aging Committee. And I've got to know the chair of that. I've met with him several times. I'm gonna go to their meeting next week at the Barnstable Senior Center. They've just created their own term limits. They did it on their own. That's a great incentive for these committees to say, you're gonna have term limits, but if you wanna control it yourself, here's your chance. And I've laid out a formula in what I've written. You can use it as you wish. I'd rather have you use it than take it in front of full town council. So I've exceeded 3 limits, but who cares? I'm looking at thoughts that I'm trying to help you, and I took limit all the things. These are the notes I took about what you said. Turnovers, favorites, fresh ideas, change of attitude, brains, and how many people per term. That's just scratching the surface on what term limits deal with. So now it's time for you to interview me.
Maybe another day. We've got to call it at 5.
Understand?
Yeah. Before we go, we've got to,
You gotta pick a new date.
Minutes?
we've got minutes first. We're going to do minutes. Everybody's got a copy of the minutes. Got a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes for February 26th, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. 3 ayes and 1 abstention. Let's see, and then next meeting.
I will say while you're hunting up the next meeting that Larry does make a great point that has overarching training.
Yeah,
We do a horrible job in this town at training people, including us. Training is really essential.
Are you signed up for the harassment trainings?
Yes.
There you go. I'm
Tuesday.
going tomorrow.
I haven't signed up yet.
13th, right? Tomorrow's the 13th?
Tomorrow,
I have, what days was it? You sent me the thing. I think I have stuff every single day.
13th, and
I
then
have
18, 19 are evenings.
Mashpee Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, boy.
The 18th is
tomorrow,
one,
the award I'm
no,
doing.
One is
the
tomorrow.
19th is
The
1 to 4.
19th.
That's what I'm
I
going.
have to work. So,
Well, you'll have to learn how to harass people
yeah, I'm getting
somewhere
better
else.
at it. I've been practicing.
Well, we're going to get back to what our next meeting was.
I think we ought to
We ought to just pick a
go
date.
quickly.
I don't know if we need to, let me see if,
We should probably check with Cynthia first.
well, I was gonna say.
Not today, but
Is this meeting supposed to be videotaped? I know it is.
It has been. well, let's call it a day before we go.
But I think Sarah wouldn't be able to find available dates for us. From
Okay,
IT,
all
I'm
right,
just saying.
okay.
Seth, what do you do with Mashpee?
With my store or the town?
And do you do anything with the
Are you
town?
doing the harassment?
Not really.
Yeah.
You're not involved with their government?
No,
On the
I'm
19th.
I'm
1 to
I'm
4.
getting an
doing it
award from the
tomorrow.
Chamber of Commerce for something. But no, I mean, I'm involved indirectly with the town because I
Well,
deal
I'll
with,
get you a mustache trim.
I know.
yeah. I gotta wax my mustache better, this one won't work today.
Time would probably be
3:30
good
is
for them.
good.
She said, meeting during the regular day as opposed to an evening meeting.
I know,
It's easier for
I'm
their
sick of
schedule.
every evening being here.
All right, well, today's the 12th. So
19th?
I'm looking at the,
You mean next week?
Yeah.
no, I got that harassment training.
Yeah,
on
that's
that.
right.
How about the 27th or the 21st? 21st or 27th?
Oh, Friday the
Or 20
21st?
or
Is not something
26th.
else?
No, or maybe the 26th?
I have,
26th?
I
Wednesday?
don't, my schedule is hard to determine that far out, so I
26th
always
looks
say
good.
make a.
How about the
and then I'll be
24th?
there If I can.
Monday, 24th.
That's not good for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we have
26th.
town code that day. Town code
26th?
ad hoc that day. 24th. I think.
What?
I think we have the town code ad hoc meeting that day at 3.
Oh, do we?
I'm
I
pretty
guess
sure.
I'm gonna miss that.
I'm good the 26th, 27th. I think you said 21st. I'm not good the 19th. So, but I know you said no to the 19th.
The 26th is sort of I
Alright.
thought that was gonna be good, but, I'm having my cataracts done on the 25th, so
Oh, now
I
you won't be able to see anything.
probably have the 26th has to be a
No,
return
you see
visit.
well.
Return visit, so, 27th, anybody, Thursday?
There's a housing committee meeting on the 27th at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
We can meet,
Don't they meet in there?
But John's the liaison.
Oh, that makes sense.
no, this is housing committee, not ad hoc.
He's the
Oh,
liaison
you're
to
the
the
liaison
housing
to housing, I'm
committee.
sorry.
Which is the 26th
27th,
27th.
at 3:30?
4 o'clock.
4 p.m.
Two
Wonder if-
meetings.
I wonder if a 6
No,
o'clock
it's
meeting
insane.
we can make that.
6 o'clock's awful late.
31st? Monday the 31st?
Sounds great.
Monday, 31st? Cesar Chavez Day?
Perfect.
See if Chris is good for the 31st.
You doing both eyes, John?
At the same time?
2 weeks apart. But I'm doing
That's
the
what I
ones,
did.
I'm doing the ones that are, the new ones that they're adjustable by light after you put them in, so they can adjust it to almost exactly, that's what they
Oh, they're
say.
just putting something in?
They change, everybody gets a lens, but this is a new lens where they
Do you
actually
have something in there now?
have cataracts in there, it's not.
No, so this is your first, it
Yes,
sounds
yeah,
like you could
yeah.
do something later, no.
No, this is the first time I'm gonna do it. But they put a new lens, whatever procedure you have, but there's a new lens that they
Did
actually,
you say your surgery's on the 26th?
25th.
31st?
How about the 31st?
Going back.
It's going back.
John, you have a ride back after you.
I do, thank you.
do have a
Yeah.
ride.
But is it like,
If you lose it, call me.
All right, thanks Larry, appreciate it.
is it like transitions for your,
31st at 3:30 is good.
3:30, 31st.
it darkens to keep the UV rays out?
No, give me a second. We'll close up the meeting. 3:30, Comcoms.
What time, what date?
The
31st.
31st of March,
3:31 at 3, okay,
3:30,
3:31 at 3:30.
okay.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of
We
threes in that
we
date.
we did the agenda, right? I mean, the minutes, right?
Minutes.
Okay,
Yes.
we need a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah.
thank you.
Good work.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's good. Well, I'm getting this thing, is this